Welcome to the Class Apart. I'm your host, Arjun. Thank you for joining me as I embark upon a journey across the world of higher education. Each episode, we'll discover exciting alumni experiences, gain industry insights with various stakeholders, and explore the ever-changing landscapes of global learning. Thank you for tuning in once again. For all of you that have listened to an episode in the past, I thank you for being a loyal listener and thank you for subscribing. For all of you that are listening to an episode for the first time, definitely welcome to the community. And I would really appreciate it if you, after listening to the content to see if you like it, do hit that subscribe button. That would be awesome. Today, I've got a very unique guest with me. His name is Aashray Patel. I met him way back when. I think it's been over 15 years almost. It's a very interesting situation because till now we've been looking at people who have gone abroad for international education, both at the undergraduate and the postgraduate level. But Aashray will bring a unique vision to the podcast because he worked it in a very, very different way. I'll let him get into the details further, but he did flip the scales a little bit on what the kind of norm is and what people do in India. So Aashray, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Arjun. Thanks for having me. Really honored to be here. The Class Apart.
Yeah. Thank you. So, just for the listeners, where did you do your undergraduate and postgraduate?
Right. So, I studied in India in boarding school in Dehradun, and then from there I studied in the US at this small liberal arts college called DePauw University. Mm-hmm. Now, sort of getting into sort of the reasons why I went there, being in an all-boys environment, like being in boarding school, right from class 2. So that's pretty much like from the time I started schooling, like a strong sense of, being independent and sort of trying to figure my own way out. And an education abroad, like with the sort of flexibility that it offered, in terms of letting you choose your major, in your second year of school, of college, plus the general career opportunities that seemed available at the time. This was in 2010. Mm-hmm. And of course, like all the other softer aspects, like your social life, I'd never lived abroad, I'd barely even visited abroad. So those were all like contributing factors to me, like going to DePauw. Why DePauw particularly, like I said, liberal arts, so like a lot of flexibility in terms of classes. Campus life, it was like a really small campus, 2,400 people, small classes, tight-knit community. Community was big for me. And then, of course, like they gave me a decent scholarship. So the financial aspect also got sweetened. Yeah. For my post-grad, just to sort of give you an intro, I studied in India. I was thinking about going abroad, but then we'll get into some of the reasons later why I didn't. But I just finished this April, actually, from the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad. Once again, great program, and I went there for completely separate reasons, but it's worked out really well. Yeah. I'm working now full time at like a tech company in Bombay. Yeah.
I mean, so that's actually quite interesting because, I mean, we obviously know what the norm is. Either the norm is that you just kind of, after class 12, people from the school that we went to or people from generally just go for their undergraduate and then naturally the postgraduate seems to go abroad, or they do their undergraduate in India and then due to the kind of postgraduates being shorter programs, the financial burden is less, they go for their postgraduate abroad. So it's kind of interesting that you flipped that around completely and you went for your undergraduate abroad and did your master's in India. So I'd like to dive into that a little bit more. What was it about ISB that kind of was like, yeah, because as you mentioned, you had the option to go abroad as well, but what about ISB stuck out for you and what were the motivating factors there?
Right. So I guess like the primary thing was the thinking. So I like, just to give you a little bit of context, right? Like I was at DePauw and I got a job in Chicago. So I actually worked like out of my undergraduate in Chicago for a year and a half. And like got into a good program with the bank over there, like a leadership program. And I had to cut that short because of like visa problems. And then I had to come back to India. And then once I came back here, got into the swing of things here. I was working at Citibank and then I did a little startup for like 2 years. And the thinking sort of behind being in India was that long term I saw myself here. I saw a good
Yep.
opportunity here, and given the fact that I'd done my undergrad abroad and the stuff that I'd learned there, the kind of experiences that I'd been like exposed to, the people I'd met, kind of soft skills I'd developed, I thought that could be a really big competitive advantage for me in Indian context, in the Indian setting.
Definitely.
Especially knowing the fact that I am Indian, and I had a strong grasp over like some of the analytical stuff here. I generally understood how people think here, and then bringing that perspective as well. Plus ISB as a school, it was a 1-year program, so very short turnaround, like a quick in and out, gives you like a great network within India. So I didn't really have a professional network here. I had like a good, strong friend network, but not a super professional network. So and then of course like very good like placements and post program prospects in terms of career. So I guess like it was a combination of like what I brought to the table, what the school offered, and a mix of my like long-term goals as well, which made a lot of sense to me, as opposed to say going to like a good school like abroad. Did fairly well in the GMAT as well, so I definitely had that option. But then again, like you think about the ROI, you think about like what are the reasons sort of you're going there, right?
Yep.
Like I mean, the same kind of education is available in India as well. It's just the network that differs, or the experience of actually being abroad. Now, since I'd already done some of that stuff, it made a lot more sense for me to stay here in India.
So it sounds like, I mean, you put a significant amount of thought into your master's program.
Right. I mean, as you should, right? I mean, for anybody trying to pursue a degree that costs abroad upwards of $200,000, which roughly translates to like a 1.5 CR, and that's just tuition, right? Like, you'll be doing all the other fun stuff that goes with it. Like, you're going to be doing the travel. You're going to be doing the, going to the bars with your friends. Like, so that adds up. All
it
that stuff adds
does.
up. So in that sense, it makes it financially as well, makes a lot of sense. And and they say hindsight is 20/20, but like, can you imagine being stuck with an online MBA from Wharton?
I can't think about it at the moment. I think there are some people that we both know that are stuck. I think one is doing their MBA from Oxford and they're stuck online, and the other one's kind of just about to start the MBA from Cambridge.
Right.
Unfortunate situations, to be very honest. So, I mean, if we kind of zoom out a little bit and kind of look at it, in retrospect, for both DePauw and for ISB, did the universities meet your expectations?
Oh yeah, 100%. So I'd say like ISB is a bit of more of a home run, because like it's fairly well known. You know what to expect. You've seen a lot of people go in, like people that have been to that institution, who've done well for themselves. Fairly linear path in terms of what you need to do at that place to be successful and like have a good time there. For DePauw, like it was completely different. So like I didn't know anybody there, nor did I know anyone who had really gone to that school.
Yeah.
So it was a complete like shot in the dark. It was just a blind like leap of faith of sorts. What helped me there like was the fact that like I just went in with no sort of pre-existing expectations, right? So it was just like you go there like a sponge and you try and just absorb anything and everything that happens. I would say it just like completely surpassed my expectations as well, in terms of just everything. Not just the academics program and the career opportunities, but even the other stuff, like just like how socially different it was, the diversity there, the kind of people I met, the travel I did, just the life experience, like the entire package. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. So my next question would pertain more to the undergraduate side of things, because I mean, you'd already spent a couple of years working in India. You are from India, like you kind of understood what you were getting into with ISB because you understood the people, the culture, everything. But you're 18 years old. You've not, I mean, like the abroad kind of exposure was limited, and you find yourself in Chicago, not an easy city. It's a very kind of hustle bustle, like there's a constant kind of grind in Chicago. and you're just there as an 18-year-old, fresh out of a kind of closed environment in boarding school. I mean, like, where did you struggle? Like, was there a culture shock?
Yeah, so actually the college was a little outside Chicago, so it's about like 2 hour drive from there, which was like the first shock that I got. So I thought like, okay, it'll be like in a city,
Yeah.
at least like smaller city. I knew it wasn't like a big city, it's Greencastle, like in Indiana, a little south of Illinois, like Chicago. But yeah, man, like you drive down, like you fly into O'Hare, and then you're driving down in like the college shuttle that they send for you. And you have your 2 bags with you and like a backpack, and that's all like you can take from here.
Yeah.
So then you're going down, and then suddenly like it's like you see a big city, and it's just like, whoa, man, what's this? And then you slowly get out of the city, and it's just cornfields everywhere, and then you're like, all right, where am I headed? And then suddenly you reach this like small like idyllic college town, like the stuff that you probably read about like in the movies and stuff, like, and nice, really beautiful campus. And then like, yeah, it's just like everything is different, right? I mean, right from the fact that like your accent sounds funny, also like coming from an all boys environment, like you're like in a completely co-ed environment. Like, so my dorm room was a co-ed dorm. So like I had my room, and then there were like 2 girls living next to me, and then there were like, it was just a mixed bag of sorts, right? Like the bathrooms were all like co-ed as well. So it was just like, whoa, what's going on? And then for a lot of like other stuff, it's just like you're going in blind, so you don't really know like what are the best clubs to join, like how you sort of get like the interactions going with some of the people there, like people who are local. They're talking about sports that you don't quite understand. They're talking about like music that you haven't heard before. So it's a lot of like, you just have to sort of put yourself out there and like just learn as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can, step outside your comfort zone completely. So culture shocks are given. I think that's standard. But yeah, this one was a little bit more than expected because you were just in the middle of nowhere. There were like 8 Indians in my college.
Wow.
It helped that there was one other person from my school who also went to college with me. So that really helped me. But at the same time, like we decided not to sort of room together or like stick to each other because the idea was to explore and like,
definitely.
really thank you for the opportunity.
And I mean, like, it would have been quite weird if you live with the guy for like 6 years in all boys boarding school, and then you go to university and you're just kind of living with the same guy. I mean, that would have been quite cool at the same time, but you can see where it would have its drawbacks as well.
Yeah, for sure. It was purposely avoided.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you obviously know that I went to university abroad as well. And one of the things that I struggled with personally is the loneliness. To be very honest, I mean, it's not like I didn't have people around. There were always friends around, I'd make new friends, we'd go out. But at the same time, you're coming from an environment where you live with your friends. Like, you can literally just walk into each other's room at any time of the day or night, and you've just got someone there to hang out with. It's not as open as that when you kind of go to university. And I did spend a lot of time alone, and that was something that I had to learn to deal with and kind of accept. Where would some of the places that you struggled, like where would you be able to identify some of the struggling factors when you kind of went to university?
Right. I'd say the first thing was probably the independence, right? Like it's just that the fact that you're living a very regimented life. You're living sort of, what's your day to day, what you need to do to get from point A to point B in your head. Like, okay, if I do X, Y, Z, I'll get like this. That's how the Indian system sort of trains you, right? Like, it's just like, okay, if you do these things, then you're gonna get this set outcome. But I guess when I went there for the first time, like to college, is that there's just so much time. I never realized I had that much time in my life before. Like, and it's just because classes are like 3 hours a day, and then there's literally the rest of the time where you just have to yourself. So yeah, loneliness is one of the things for sure. But a lot more than that, I was like just trying to figure out like how to deal with this new independence, because with that comes so many other things, right? Like you're exposed to alcohol for the first time, you're exposed to, in some cases, drugs for the extent, right? Like, so just being really frank here. So these are things that you sort of have to figure out and try and like take into your stride on how you're going to deal with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that as an 18-year-old in a new country without too many friends around can be a really daunting prospect. So you need to build like those support systems, which took some time. So I guess like that's where I struggled a lot initially for 1 month, just trying to understand, okay, like how am I going to deal with all this, and then still try and achieve like, okay, the sort of like objective I have of coming here and studying here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, figuring out like the other aspects of what I want to do, and you know, discovering myself and stuff.
Yeah.
So some questions around that. Those were the difficult things for sure.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
one thing.
And, yeah.
Like one thing that really stood out to me was that, you know, everyone always throughout my entire life, everyone has always said your first year of university is going to be the best. And the thing is, for me, I mean, it was a pretty good year. I'm not gonna knock it on the head, but I mean, I wouldn't call it the best because there was a significant learning curve, and everyone that I had heard it from were like family from the UK. So if you've kind of been brought up and if you've lived in the UK even till the age of 18, for them, their first year was that, okay, I know everything. I just need to kind of rage, you know, like I can just have as much fun as I want because like none of these grades count towards my final year. And I know I know the food, I know the system, I know the banking, I have my phone ready, like everything is just available for them. Whereas for me, like while first year, the academic pressure was not as much. It did allow me the time to learn everything else, but that was still, that took a significant amount of time. So I wasn't able to kind of rage and just go mad the way my counterparts were, who were born and brought up kind of in the UK.
Right.
But yeah,
for sure.
But like,
that's
how
a
was
tough
your
one,
support?
man. Like, no, I was just saying it's a tough one for sure. Like, you see everybody doing all the things that you want to be doing, but then you know, like it's going to take a bit of time to get there.
Yeah,
and sort of
absolutely.
like figure it out. So I completely understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like in the UK, the drinking age for beer and wine is 16. If you've got kind of, you know, adult guidance, like if you're with someone who's over the age of 18, you can just have a couple of drinks, like it's fine. I mean, I hadn't even seen alcohol till I was like 18. So, you know, but yeah, how was the support system at university at DePauw?
So a couple of things, like it was really good. Like right from the start, they were really pretty good about it. So even before we joined, like they assigned like a couple of mentors, like with like buddies of sorts within the like upperclassmen who sort of helped you out with the basics, like you said, like the phone, like where am I going to get my groceries from, where I'm going to get my pillow from, you know, like those kind of things, like the very basic stuff. And then once you got there, there was like an entire first year sort of like mentorship program of sorts, and they assigned you like a faculty advisor. So the faculty was really good in the sense that like they took care of some of the more like academic and you know, sort of career related like questions or apprehensions that you had, which you couldn't probably share with like a lot of people. So that was there for that. And then on the social side, at least initially, you had your buddy, but then there was a big Greek system at my college. The Greek system was about like 80% of the students were Greek. So and like to someone sitting in India, that even my parents freaked out when I told them like I was considering joining a fraternity. They automatically equate like fraternities with like the American Pie movies, and it's nothing like that. Like it wasn't anything like that. But yeah, what it did give me, the fraternity system, was a really solid support system, because you're part of like this entire like group. So there was 10 fraternities with like probably 70-80 students each in each class, right? Like so there were a lot of people in these fraternities, and then there were sororities, which was like the girls side of the fraternities. And apart from just like socializing, there was a lot of like other cool stuff that the fraternities did. There was a lot of philanthropy that happened. There were a lot of like events that they sponsored. It was a really nice, like, you even lived in the fraternity. So I lived in the fraternity for like a year and a half. So you got really close to the people there. They were like your family there. So that really helped me. I did Thanksgiving at like some of like my fraternity friends were like my closest friends there. They used to have me over to their houses for Thanksgiving. I used to go over to their place for Christmas. We used to do spring break together. So we
Oh,
got
wow.
like a lot of, like a tight circle for sure, which then had your back,
Yeah.
and of course, yeah. So it's like a family over there.
That's actually very interesting because I mean, obviously, as you said, whenever you hear a fraternity, everyone thinks of like, the American Pie movies and just kind of, things going wild in a fraternity. But it's actually nice to hear that, there's a lot more that goes on in a fraternity, especially the philanthropy aspect of it. I mean, I never even knew that things like this happen. So, I mean, that's really refreshing and awesome to hear. So, I mean, if we kind of rewind again back to 2010, let's say, you're just finishing up at school and you're getting dropped off at the airport, you're about to hop on the flight and someone says, hey, you should know this before you go. What would some of those things be? Like, what would you just like to know before you went?
Right. I think the first thing is just step outside your comfort zone. Like, don't be afraid to just be yourself, even though there might be this pressure to sort of conform to like the new culture, or like you'd feel like scared. But the idea is that the fact that you are going and you decided to go, and the fact that you were selected at the university that you're going to, shows that they saw something in you that like they liked and they want at their college. So it's important to not forget that. If within this crazy journey, like 3-4 years, which really shape up like and change your life in so many ways, it's important to not forget some of the stuff that like happened before, and like what your true core values are, and that really helps like guide you along like the way. So that's would be like the one overall advice. Of course, there's small tactical shit that you can do, like like make sure you don't pick a course that has no like opportunities later. Like if you're going to the US, then try and see if you can do a STEM course. If your intentions are like you want to be there, like don't be like me and like not know how to order a steak. Like when you go there, like person came and asked me like, how do you like your steak cooked? And then I was just like, wait, what? I was like, how you usually cook it? I mean, I was just confused, like, but yeah, I mean, it's important to like have a good idea of like your strengths and like play to those, while at the same time being open to new experiences. But then, yeah, stick to your strengths as well. Like, keep a hold on your core values. Those are very important things.
Yeah. And I mean, you have touched on this briefly before, but both with DePauw and ISB being, I mean, obviously they're significant kind of factors in the last decade of your kind of experiences of university and education. How did they help kind of, if from an overarching perspective, how did they help shape your kind of career and trajectory till now?
Right. So I would say like the first thing was just the opportunities you get, right? Like from an undergrad perspective, like you're coming with very little experience. So one of the first things that DePauw did for me was I was part of like this program at DePauw called the Management Fellows, and part of that program was doing a 6-month internship at a company that they connected you with over there, and you had to interview and all those things, but like it became fairly easy for me to land an internship because of the program. So I did like a 6-month internship at like this Fortune 500 company in Indiana, Cummins. They make diesel engines, fairly famous company. So did that, and that gives you an insight into sort of, all right, like this is what it sort of takes to be to land a job, be successful at it, like, or like the kind of stuff that you need to do in order to like sort of make it or get a job there, or even like when if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, like kind of the stuff that you need to be keeping in mind from an organizational standpoint, like how are you going to proceed with things, right? Like it's practical real world experience. And after that, like other than that, the internship is one, right? Like then coursework is two. Now this is where ISB was also like very, very good for me, and DePauw as well. Like it sort of like prepares you for the kind of skills that are required in like the jobs out there, or even even if you're starting something on your own, the kind of analytical thinking that you need to sort of bring to the table.
Yep.
So it prepares you with that tool set. It's important to have good professors. Both these colleges had really good professors. It's important to get face time with them. So those were like two other factors that really prepared me for my career.
Yep.
And then like finally the soft skills, right? Like, like now if someone tells me, hey, we need you to present like on this in an hour, and I have no clue about like the topic, I have the confidence, Ray, like that, like, all right, like give me half an hour, I'm gonna like try and prep up as much as I can, and then go and just like deliver something that makes sense, and I have confidence that I can do that. And so that confidence comes from education, and that is not specific to any particular career or any particular field. That's just specific to your personality, and that helps you with in like pretty much any job or venture. So, and that sort of helped me go into first banking, which was a very steady path out of college. It was like an easy land, maybe in hindsight not the best thing that I could have chosen at that point, but fair enough, it worked. And then came back, and then I was like, all right, now I need to pivot and switch. Now the fact that I could even make that switch is down to my education and the confidence that I had, like at in my own abilities. And then from there went to the startup, like did 2 years over there, completely different. Then went to ISB, where you have like a talent pool. Some like the top like most sharp people like in the country are coming there, like so you have to like mentally prepare yourself to like compete with those guys. And then from there, like moving into like a more managerial level role where you're leading other people as well, so the leadership aspects also sort of start coming in. So it's an amalgamation of all those things which your education really helps you do. It might not appear though at the start, at the time you're doing the education or writing that exam, but it adds up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it all kind of comes together in retrospect. Otherwise, like when you're in the moment, like sometimes I feel it's a bit overwhelming. So you just got to kind of put one foot in front of the other and just deal with it, and then you can do the thinking about it later.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I
to
mean,
give like a football analogy, it's like you if like someone's coming on, like team is attacking you at that time, if you're a defender or even if you're an attacker, you're just going to clear the ball, right? Like you're not going to think about like what's going to happen later, and then slowly you'll understand like, okay, it's part of a broader picture or game management or something.
Definitely. Pretty much my final question, and this is, I mean, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, because as I mentioned in the introduction, like you kind of flipped it on its head, and you've gone through a process which I actually don't know anyone else who's gone through the trajectory that you have.
Right.
Are you an advocate of international higher education? And I mean, if so, why? If not, why? I mean, I feel you're in the best place to kind of compare both because you've experienced both.
Right. No, 100%. I'm an advocate of international education. The fact that like, I'd say like at some point in your undergrad or your graduation, if you have the means and if you have the will, you should definitely go and do it. Why? Because you learn a lot about yourself. Like I think that's something that India sort of like will, regardless how much you study in India. Just from my personal experience with ISB and with my undergrad, there's just so much more I learned about myself, like being outside over there around people that like were just so different from me. It gives you like a great sense of like independence and at the same time like responsibility as well, because you're there for a purpose. You're there to advance your own opportunities in your own career. So those are things that are constantly playing in your mind. Apart from just this part, like it's great to be out there, step outside your comfort zone, and then there are a lot of opportunities. And a lot of like different things that you might not even have heard of sitting here in India, that are available to you there. Ways in which your skills or like things that you bring to the table are appreciated maybe much more. So that's there. Plus, just the overall experience, you get to travel, see new places, talk to new people, a lot of diversity. You maybe pick up a new language as well. And these are skills that stick with you for the rest of your life. So regardless of if you're studying abroad or you're studying in India, these just add to your personality and make you a more attractive employment prospect, a more attractive partner, a more attractive investor, or someone who probably is more likely to get invested in. So yeah, these are things that stick with you, and you create good friends. So it's a home run pretty much. You can't really go wrong. And choose, as long as you choose something, you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not going there just to party. That aspect of it, but there's other. It's about priorities at the end of the day. I think, and then you can't really go wrong with international education if you do all the things that you're supposed to.
Yeah, very true, very true. If you do the things you're not supposed to do, you can end up in some very sticky situations.
But try and avoid that.
Definitely. But thank you for coming on the show. It's been great. I'm sure if any of the listeners have any follow-up questions, I'll probably hit you up and see if you'd like to go through a round 2. But it's been awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, happy to chat. This was great, man, Arjun. Really looking forward to hearing more people on the podcast.